All right, welcome everyone. Thank you guys so much for being here. My name is Brendan Lowe, creator and founder of Jazz Piano School, and hopefully everything's sounding good right now. If you guys can just let me know in the chat if you can hear me okay, if you can hear the piano. Super excited to be here today. I'm going to be finishing up the live stream series that I'm doing in connection with the 3-episode mini series, kind of lecture series on my jazz piano journey. Today I'm going to be talking about tunes. So essentially with the live streams, hey Bruce, with the live streams, I have gone through a theory sequence, what I call a theory sequence, where it starts with theory component, learning about some sort of concept, and then we took it into practicing or technique, which I call technique, kind of practicing. How do we actually start to develop that theory concept underneath our fingers? A bit more piano. There you go. Thank you for letting me know that. And then we took it into improvisation, right? And that was on Saturday. How do we spontaneous play things? How do we practice the art of spontaneity and working on that? And finally, after all this work, right? So we're doing all this work for our concept, we're practicing, and then we're practicing improvisation, how we use that concept in different ways, spontaneously. Finally, we are at our tune, right? So my whole concept with playing tunes in jazz is pretty opposite from the way I learned. Now, the way I learned didn't really serve me in a lot of different ways. And that's why I've kind of gone so far opposite of that method. And guaranteed, you'll see the tune method taught a lot, where you go straight to the tunes in your jazz lessons or your jazz videos or anything like that. And you're watching your teacher play, and he's showing you voicings. He's writing down voicings for you on manuscript paper, voicings you can play over certain chords in tunes, licks you can play over certain chords in tunes. That's what my teacher did all the time. I recorded him. I'd transcribe what he was playing. This essentially is the jazz way, and it never really worked for me. And there's bits and pieces that, of course, I always love, I always use, but my philosophies are much more structured, systematic, and built off of language learning blocks on learning a language, because jazz is a language. So I'm going to go to the tune in just a second, but I just want you to be thinking, as we go to the tune and I show you it, what things do you struggle with? Right? What do you struggle with when playing jazz? And it's a really great question. I think a lot of students actually stray from, because it's hard to face the facts. It's hard to face what we're not good at, in all of life. And the more we can do this, the better it's going to be for us, because we can tackle those issues and solve them, even though it's not easy. It's not an easy process, but the reward is so great when we go after that, right? When we go after that thing. So we've been working on theory concepts. We've been practicing some. We've been improvising with them spontaneously, like using them in spontaneous and isolated environments. And now it's time to put them into tunes. It's time to put those conceptual things we've been working on into tunes. And that's why I'm asking you, what do you struggle with when playing tunes? And you may not know. That's completely okay as well. You may not really know, but we're going to kind of dive into this analysis, this process, kind of peel back the layers of the onions with you all. And hopefully we can kind of get down to some nitty-gritty details that you guys can start to work on and realize that this is the direction or path you need to go. All right? If you're not a member, go to jazzpianoschool.com. Go to jazzpianoschool.com/blueprint. You can download the 6-stage blueprint that we have. It's a really great resource for everyone. You can take an assessment, and you'll get on our list for the new playbooks we're going to be releasing on Friday. This Friday? Yes, this is Monday. I don't even know what day it is. My team and I have been working so hard to get these ready. It will also be Black Friday, so we'll be opening up to people that want to join Jazz Piano School on Black Friday as well. We'll be joining in the festivities of Black Friday. I personally love Black Friday. I have a whole list, a Black Friday list, a shopping list. I literally try and do all my shopping on Black Friday, because it's, you get the lowest discounts of the year. There's no ands, ifs about that. Like Black Friday, that's when you get the best deal, right? So I try and do all my shopping, furniture, I don't need any TVs anymore, but like electronics, like all the stuff I need, renovation stuff, all of it. Black Friday, save the most. All right, let's go to this tune real quick here. There we go. And let me take these off here. So you guys should be seeing this tune right now up here on the screen, and it's If I Were a Bell. And what I want you to do right now, as I continue to talk and educate, I want you to let me know. Type in the chat. I want you to type in the chat. I want you to type in, if you're brave enough, I want you to type in what you would struggle with to play this tune. Let me get rid of the logo here. What would you struggle with when playing this tune, right? And it can be anything. It can literally be anything. What's the first thing that comes to mind when seeing this? I just want you guys to type in the chat, and it could be so many different things. I mean, it could be chords. It could be how to voice chords. It could be improvisation. It could be, this chart can be overwhelming to a lot of people. This is a serious roadmap right here. I mean, you got a lot of information going on. You got an intro. You got, the A section. You got a coda. You have a DS. You have an on cue ending. You have a vamp tail cue. You have so many directions happening in this tune. And again, when you open up to tunes and you're looking at them for the first time, the goal that I want to help you all with is that I want you to be able to feel confident and comfortable that you can start to play something new, brand new, without a transcription, and feel good about it. Like, feel good and, understand like what you should do, how you should play this, right? And sound good and feel great about yourself. Hey, Debbie, good to see you. Nimu says, how to comp for myself playing the melody. Cool, that's a great one. Anyone else too? Go ahead and type in the chat. And I'm going to use these examples, right, for this particular lesson as well as some other things. No technique. I always play the same arrangements for every tune that I create. Very hard to break out of the box. Howard says, yes, that's definitely true. Anyone else? Any specific things? Like, it can be anything. I mean, honestly, just list as many different problematic areas that you have when playing this tune, and I'm going to start to tackle them and work on them with you guys. For me, when I start to look through the tune, honestly, when I get a new tune, I'm going to keep talking here, guys, but go ahead and type in the chat. I look for problematic areas, right? I'm going to be looking for problematic areas. So I'm going to look for things that are going to hang me up, certain chords, certain changes I'm not familiar with, right, that I may not be comfortable with, remembering all the changes, yep. Topep says, tricky rhythms with a lot of changes at first glance, yep, definitely. Anyone else too, go ahead and put in your problematic areas with opening up to new tunes. Like, what makes you feel scared? Honestly, what's the fear inside of you that comes up? Two-hand voicings, cool, yep. Arranging kind of the melody for two hands and knowing what to do. So I'm always scanning for certain areas. This is the way I'm going to be approaching tunes. And I'm looking for chords. I'm looking for changes that I'm not familiar with. Not understanding all the symbols. Yes, definitely. And, that's what I'm going through. And again, I'm going through rhythms. I'm looking at the rhythms, right? So for I Were a Bell, there's a lot of eighth notes in here with some ties, 1 E and, right? 1 E and, 1 and 2 and, I was counting in 16th notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and, right? So rhythm, breakdown of the melody, that could be complicated for people. Comping, I mean, there's a whole overwhelming stuff to think about. So what I want you guys to start approaching tunes as is with a mindset of, what level am I at? Right? What do I need to improve in my playing to feel confident? What challenge, what problem do I need to tackle and work on in order to improve my tune playing? Because so many people get away from that, right? So many people will, with the level they're at, and obviously you can see in the chat, all of you have different things you need to work on, right? Can't improvise over the changes to tunes. Yep, definitely need better improv over the changes. Lots of 2-5-1s, changes outside of that, and soloing. Yep. Improv, get lost in the tune. Esther says, yeah, hey, Esther. Howard, Debbie, Paul, Arkham. So you all have different things, right? You all have different skill sets, and we all need to tackle these issues and these, I shouldn't say issues, these challenging areas, right? These character building things, right? So that we can improve our playing. And it's really through analyzation that we're going to do this, self-assessment. And so many people, as I was just saying, go and sit down, right? And they'll start to play the tune the way they know how, right? And things will arise that they're not sure about, right? Like maybe this A minor 7 flat 5 chord. Maybe you don't really know how to play this, so you resort to what you know. So maybe what you know is a whole root position chord. I know I'm not showing my hands right now. It doesn't really matter. We're kind of still looking at the chart here. But we kind of just skip over it. We just pass by that, right? So my whole goal today is that I want you guys to figure out the things that you need and work on them using the process that I've taught you with our theory, like working on that. And we're going to take a couple of them, practice it, work on spontaneously improvising it, and then put it back into the tune. The whole goal is to put it back into the tune so that you can come back to the tune after you said, okay, like Paul said, he needs 2 hand voicings, right? So assess where you're at, play the tune. You need 2 hand voicings. Let's work on 2 hand voicings, right? Let's go through the systematic process of working on 2 hand voicings and then put them back into the tune and see where you're at, right? Where are you at? What has increased and what's still not working? It's all about consistently self-assessing your educational levels, your abilities, and past. Because like you've just seen in the chat, so many people have different things that they need to work on. And maybe you guys are talking about what you want to work on and not what you need to work on, right? Because that's a huge difference as well. All of us have wants, the way we want stuff to sound, what we want to play like, and what you need could be something entirely different and you don't even know it, right? That's kind of the scary thing as well. So let's dive into this a little bit. I'm going to kind of run through this tune and talk about certain systematic procedures and systems and theory concepts that you can start to work on to really increase this. Now, can I split my screen with the piano? I cannot. That's okay. If you guys have this chart, you can actually screenshot this right now if you're on some sort of device, or if you have the chart, that would be really cool too. But I'm going to go to the piano shot, and then you guys can watch me kind of through this. It is helpful, obviously, to see the chords and the changes, but I'll just call them out here. Actually, you know what? Why don't I play while you look at the chart? Okay, you don't even need to really, it's not going to really help you to see what I'm playing anyway. So we have this intro, right? And then we go into the melody, right? So the first thing that we're going to want to do is think about how we are getting certain components in with the melody to make it sound good, right? So the first thing is just playing the tune. Forget improvisation, right? What level are you at for playing tunes in a solo piano fashion? Because that right there is a path and a goal in and of itself. Right? How do we voice things to make it sound like full? Right? And if you can play the first 4 bars there in a full voiced setting, right? Gathering the extensions that are kind of shown in the chart, that G7, the G7 9, add 9, right? And if you all have questions while I'm teaching, go ahead and write them in the chat, and I'm going to explain it to you. This is going to be less of a just straight lecture lesson, and it's going to be more interaction. So again, if you have questions about any of this, what you're struggling with, I'll gladly tackle those in this particular tune lesson, right? So just through that much of playing, you should be able to play through a tune in a slow way that sounds pretty full, right? And what if you can't, though? Right? Maybe you're just playing root position chords. with the melody, your goal, like Paul said, you need some two-hand voicings, maybe two-hand arrangements or harmonizations for the melody. Your goal is going to be to work on those arrangements. Like, how do we look at the melody there and get fast enough to go to the piano and play these two-hand voicings, right, that I'm playing here. Here's how I'm voicing the G7 with the melody. Now, the melody is this. Now, normally, things are actually a lot easier than you think they're going to be. So this G7, right, I'm using 1 and 7 and 3 here. This is a two-handed voicing structure inside of jazz piano school, meaning 1, 7, and 3, okay? Now, you have different options to choose for your bass note and shells. I have this G here. That's going to be way too close to the melody. I have this G here, and I have this G down here off the camera. So clearly, instinctually, after playing a lot, I realized that this area of the piano for my roots and bass notes in my two-hand voicing spreads is a great area, and that will really allow me to hit this spread quickly. So my instinct to play this tune is to directly go to this type of voicing. But that's because I've practiced these two-hand spreads a lot outside of the tune and realized that this is a great register for this two-hand spread, and the melody happens to be in a perfect place. So now I can voice this, right, just like this. Now the C7 13 sus, they just have a 13 because the melody is a 13. If you look at this, right, the melody is a 13. So in the chart it says C13, and it wants you to put a sus note in there. So again, in my two-hand spreads, as Paul says, we need bass note and shells. In this case, my shells to a sus chord are going to be not 7 and 3. They're going to be 7 and 4. So I'm going to go like this. And funny enough, in the chart, right, the melody is this. So the melody actually kind of overlaps with the sus note. So that's okay. You just hit the chord, and then it resolves. So I'm hitting that sus right on the downbeat. I'm going to lift it and then play the melody. So you see that? I'm doing this. Now I'm resolving to my 1, 7, 3. This is structure 1 of my two-hand voicing building system. I'm adding my flat 9, and the melody is always on top. Now, our melody is usually played by 3, 4, and 5 of tunes, right? So let's say you needed more of what I'm just doing right now, what I'm demonstrating, because what I just played in the beginning for you, that system of arranging tunes like that is a system that I have created. It's a two-hand voicing arranging system, and it's in a solo, I call it my solo piano system as well. There's lots of different things for that. And so, hey, Dave. And so, and that's what you would need to work on. That's what you would need to work on to get this better, get your tune playing in a better state. Right? So what you would work on is those spreads that I'm showing you. This would be your theory concept. Like, this is what you would practice to improve this component, this character building thing, right, in your playing. Not a problem. It's not a problem. Still a problem. It's easy, right? It's not an issue. It's just a little easy thing, right? We just got to work on it a little bit. We got to educate ourselves and work on it. So we would work on these spreads. So this is going to be structure 1. Right? I could also go to structure 2 here. So if I went, that would actually probably be better than me jumping from 1 and 7 to 1 and 7 again. I could go, right? Here's my G7 9. That sounds way better, honestly. That's a drop 2-ish voicing, right? So I have, I'm leaving out this F here because it's going to be the melody in a second. Here's my C in the bass, which creates that sus. It's not really a sus 2. It's just an add 9, essentially, to this chord. If I remove that, it still doesn't work right. All right, anyway. Right, so this is going to be structure 2. So structure 1, going to structure 2, structure 2, back to structure 1. Now, when I say these different structures, I'm talking about these voicing systems, 1, 7, 3. So if you cannot do this, this is what you would need to practice. You need to practice 1, 7, and 3 split up between your hands so that you can go through tunes like If I Were a Bell and play it like this. And then I'm going to move to my flat 5 chord. 1, 7, 3, flat 5, structure 2, 1, 3, 7, structure 1, 1, 7, 3, structure 1, structure 2, structure 1. And I would play through the whole tune just like that. But even before we get to playing through If I Were a Bell, you would need to learn this and go through a theory sequence process, meaning like you need to educate yourself on this theory concept. Why is it important? How is it helping you? Right? What's the purpose of this? Well, the purpose of this is to play tunes so you can play the melody and harmonize them with thick, lush chords split between both hands like Paul wants. Paul has a hard time doing two-hand voicings in tunes. This is exactly how you would increase that skill set. You would break this down and work on this systematic process, which does take time, discipline, and diligence, right? But it's not hard. It just takes effort, right? Now, when I was taking tunes and studying, I wasn't taught that. All I was taught was that he would say, this is what you're going to play, just like this. I never knew why, and I was never taught why, so I never knew what to work on to increase that ability in all of my playing. Because when you break this down and you resort away from the tune and you learn the conceptual skill set needed to increase your ability and you work on that educational component, meaning you isolate it. I'm going to work on all my dominant 7s. You should be able to do this to create two-hand voicings for dominant chords, minor chords. Here's your minor structure 1. Here's your major structure 1. Did I do that right? Nope. It's a lot of swiveling back and forth of those major 7s, right? This is what you need to get used to because this is the foundational system used to create two-hand voicings. Any two-hand voicings, this is part of it, obviously. This is one part because the other part, structure 2, is 1 and 3, 7. And then obviously one of the other ones I teach is 1 and 10 and a 7 up here to create a bigger spread like this or like this. Big spreads, right? So to increase that component, you would work on that, understand it, theorize it, know it, practice it, right? In the technique portion, improvise with it, meaning spontaneously work at spontaneously having it come through your playing in isolated environments. Meaning 2-5-1. So you would take 2-5-1s, put a metronome on, put some pressure on before you get to the tune, right? This was in the last live stream, right? You're a batter practicing different pitches outside the game. Maybe go to another key, right? Maybe go to another key. Doesn't matter. You just play it all over. With a metronome on, you can go through the keys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then maybe go to the key of F. So on and so forth. So you're spontaneously practicing this theoretic tool. Finally, we go to the tune and we put it into the tune. All of the work now has been done, really, because when we get to this G9 chord, now, because we've worked on it, when I look at this, I'm like, oh, cool, G9. Like, boom, two-hand voicing. I've worked on this. I can play it. I can move through this 2-5-1. And you guys got to remember, most tunes, 90% of all tunes are just 2-5-1s, 5-1s, 2-5-1s, 2-5 combinations. That's it. So, like, if you work on that incessantly, you're going to have 90% of the tune down cold already with whatever component you're working on, right? So I go to this G7 chord, boom, I play the melody. Then I go to the next melody, right? I could do this. Here's my A minor 7 flat 5. Now this is a component I wasn't teaching yet, but that is in there. This is an option, 1, 7, 3. Remember, for your two-hand voicing spreads, you need to have bass note, shells, and melody. bass note, shells, and melody. The melody note is the third, so I technically don't need it here. So if you have small hands, someone mentioned that, I forget who, Topep, small hands, left hand voicings that work for me. You can do this spread, 1, 7, 3, flat 5, and then you have to play the melody here. And a lot of times, guys, you don't need to hold these voicings down. You can just play them. Right? So anyway, I kind of digressing on this two-hand voicing topic, but if that's the challenge for you, that's what you would need to work on. Now, realizing that, I'm split. Realizing that what your challenges are, that's really what I'm trying to get at. And it's hard to know, right? You need kind of a mentor or teacher to help you realize, but hopefully you can take some sort of self, assessment, like really start to understand. That's why I had you guys write in the chat, what do you need more of? Like, what are you looking to do? And what needs improvement, right? What needs improvement? Let's go into improv a little bit over this tune. And, someone's calling me again, but I put it on silent, so it's not shaking the camera. So if we start to look at this tune and look at what, think about what you're good at. Like, what are you good at? What can you solo over with, right? Maybe it's the G7 chord. Maybe it's the 2-5-1. Now, a lot of times this 2-5 is just a 2-5. It's just a dominant chord, G7, going to C7, going to F major 7. Now, there's some fancy stuff in there, right? You got the sus to the flat 9, but you don't really need to worry about that much. But let's say you're not good at like the sus. That can just be a C7, right? But you want to analyze what you're not good at. Maybe it's the minor 7 flat 5. That should be that goes to the dominant, I forgot. Right? So maybe you need more practice over the minor 7 flat 5 chord, right? And D7, that maybe you need more practice with that. So what you would want to do is systematically break it down. And again, if you guys have improv struggles, please put them in the chat. I would love to take more live examples from you guys rather than me just kind of teaching on made up examples that I see a lot, right? But there's a lot of things going on in here, that you may need help with. So the minor 7 flat 5 usually is a sticking point for students, right? Knowing what to play over that. So what would you do? Well, clearly we would want to work on that. We'd want to work on that section outside so that we can solo. Now, again, working on your improvisation is one path. These skill sets and levels to do everything I'm playing here there's a lot happening. You need to understand that in all of the things that I just played for improv, there's many Lego building blocks and systems that you need to separate in order to have all of that come together. And that is very often overlooked. Just the ability to play your left hand while your right hand is improvising is a whole nother thing. If you're a beginner, you may just be playing root position voicings and soloing. Maybe you work on your left hand solo piano components, because remember, your left hand, don't forget about your left hand. It's a valuable resource to improv. It's going to make, if I just play root position voicings and I solo like a pro in my right hand, check out how it sounds. actually. Right? That it doesn't sound that like, yeah, sure, my right hand sounds good, but like the left hand is really weighing my right hand down. And it could be vice versa, right? So there's a lot of components you need just in order to improve your sound, small little things. It doesn't always have to do with your right hand improv. It could be your left hand. Now, if I play my left hand like a pro and I bring my right hand down to a beginner improvisation level, it would sound like this. Right now, my left hand is at pro level. My right hand is at beginner. So you need to analyze the systems that are necessary for you and increase your abilities in tunes, right? So it's not just, hopefully you guys are realizing like the purpose of all of this is not just to play tunes. Like the tune is the template. And then once you go through the tune, think about like, what do you need? Because just replaying the tunes over and over and over and practicing, quote unquote, you're not really practicing when you just play tunes over and over and over. That's not helping you get better. What's going to help you get better is that if you play through a tune, take a step back, sit at the piano and understand and realize, what do I need? What do I need to get better? Like, do you need your right hand improvisation to sound better? Do you need your left hand comping while your right hand improv is sounding better? Like maybe you need more characteristics, more texture. I was using lots of different methods. I was using bass note supportive methods. Right? I was using left-hand components. I was using lots of different things. And these things need to be broken down. So I'd practice just my bass notes. If I want to include that texture in my playing or that atmosphere, then I'm going to want to isolate it. Go back to the drawing board, take the tune off your piano, and work on that texture in the theory sequence that I've laid out for you. Understand how you play bass notes, or bass lines, I should say. Even just bass notes by themselves. That's going to sound better. Start to work on your technique so you can actually play it, right? Get it under your hands. Everything can improve. Everything you want to play and you desire to play can improve. You can absolutely do that. I hear so many students say, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. Yes, you can. You absolutely can. It just takes a little bit of effort, a little bit of knowledge and understanding of what needs to be isolated and solved in order to improve that aspect. But it's not a sprint. Like you can't do all of it together. Okay, let's go back to the tune for just a second. And, again, these are a lot of different. So solo piano is one way to play this. If you're wanting to play groups, that would be another method. That's another full path. If you're wanting to increase your improvisation, obviously you would need to break this down. What would I do to start to work on my improv through this to connect the chords? Right now, I always do this first, and it's going to be taught in the improvisation playbook and the new improvisation specialty course I'll be releasing probably in Q1 of next year. But working your way through the chord tones, G7, C7. I still do this to this day. Don't laugh at me, right? Now, for new tunes, I still do this concept because it helps you hear the bass note. It helps you hear the chord tones, the harmony. These chord tones are your most important notes. They're going to be the notes that reflect the harmony. If you're not hitting them, you're not going to be reflecting the harmony in your tune, and your improv is probably not going to sound great. See if you can hear the melody while I play this. going to continue the exercise from the beginning and just follow along with the chords. Right? So you could totally hear the whole harmonic structure, how the movements of the harmonies are moving together just by outlining those chord tones, right? Then we start to get into soloing with the chord tones, which still I'm not above in any means to this day. I still do this concept, right? So I'll just use the chord tones here, see if you can hear the tune again. Sorry. Just kidding. All right, so clearly, even with the chord tone practice, you can hear the melody happen, right? And so going back to the drawing board, let's say your improvisation is needed and necessary. This is what you would work on. But let's say you're having difficulty with the diminished change, or this F6 going to F7 over A, B flat 6, C7, right? You would isolate that and work on it. What is happening in this construct, right? You just kind of go back to the drawing board. Maybe you're just working on this progression and working on the concept, like 1, right? 1/7 over 3, 4. This is just a 4/6 chord, and then to the 5 chord. So as long as you understand the progression, you can start to practice it, work on the technique. I would outline those, play them, and improvise them, right? Let's go to some of the other things that people said here. Not understanding all the symbols. Again, Debbie, that's a great one. That's a great one, because what symbols don't you understand, right? And I'm looking at the chart here. That's why my eyes keep diverting. But if I'm looking at the chart, right, what symbols don't you know? That's an easy one, right? So we can help you solve that very quickly. Like if you don't understand this symbol, let's figure it out. Let's learn it. Let's learn what the symbol means, and then we can start to use it. So that way you see a chart, you start to do this. But this is the process. It's, again, guys, it's about analyzation of where you're at, assessing where you're at, going and picking out those challenges, working on them, and then placing them back into the tune. It's just a circular process, right? You play your tune, you work on an educational component that you want to improve through the cycle, the theory sequence that I create, right? And those levels actually systematically build up your skill level so that when you get back to the tune, you're going to have a much easier time. Not even that tune, any tunes. The great thing about this is that you're learning, and your return on investment for your time is actually helping you increase all of your tunes, not just one. Because when you're practicing transcriptions and things like that, you're not allowing yourself to improve over all tunes. So your time and your effort is actually at a diminished. You're losing your return on investment of your time, because practicing transcription is only going to allow you to play that tune that you're practicing, right? You're not really practicing or learning the concept. When you learn the concept through my theory sequence process, then you have an understanding of it. You don't need music to practice it because you know it. So you can go to the piano, you can start to work on it. You work on the technique, literally the physical act of playing that concept. You go to the next step, spontaneous improvisation of that tool, whatever the concept is, learning how to actually put it into a pressured environment, but still isolated, not completely pressured, right? The tune is our full pressured environment, game time, right? Finally, when we've worked on it, then we put it in the tune. We see how it performs. We see how it does, right? And we're like, oh man, I got this. I actually got this. My tune has elevated. My abilities, my skill sets have elevated, right? So let me just look through a couple other things here. Remembering all changes. Again, that's going to be a memorization thing. Learning the harmonies, learning all that stuff, right, can be accomplished very easily in a learning tunes manner where you're going to separate your bass notes, play your bass notes, play your melody, play them together, play all your chords by themselves in both hands, play your chords in your right hand, left hand bass notes. But again, these are the systems. I can't teach you all the systems on this particular lesson, but when you know what you need, you can go find those systems and you can learn them, right? And you can work on them. And then when you come back to the tune, they're going to be elevated, right? Howard says, I have no technique and I always play the same arrangement for every tune that I create. Very hard to break out of the box. It is. It is very hard to break out of the box. If you play If I Were a Bell, right, or you have some way of playing it and you want to break out of the box, the only way to do that is to start to work on other things, playing different things that you're not used to playing, right? And that takes a lot of discipline, right? Removing the music or playing something else, it just requires you to sit down at the piano. If I do this all the time for my voicing to If I Were a Bell and I want to try something else, maybe I try a different texture. I'm going to sit down at the piano. Maybe I'll do this. Or maybe I'll play the melody and then jump to my left-hand shells. Or maybe full chord. Or maybe I'll just do, or just bass note, right? But working to develop your skill set outside the box takes obviously effort to break out of those habits and start to spontaneously create different things that we're playing. But the only way to do that is to remove the crutch, remove the crutch of what's holding you back and dive in to the systems and the components necessary to improve your abilities, rather than kind of just bypassing that, ignoring it, ignoring the problems, and then they kind of just fester. It's a lot like life, honestly, pulling back the curtain on what we need to work on, because that's what's going to improve your tunes, right? When you tackle those issues. So hopefully that you see, like, when I play this tune, is it hard? Yes, it's difficult, right? But what I'm actually doing is, in theory, I understand physically playing it is a whole different ballgame. Technically, it's a lot of technique, but theoretically, it's not hard. And if you can understand it, right? Even if you could get to this level here, that's a huge accomplishment. Now, a lot of times, if you have a lot of melodies that are going by fast, you don't even have to harmonize right with the chord. You can play it after. I forget who said it, but comping for themselves while playing the melody, that's a great way to do it. Play the melody, then jump down and comp. So I'm playing my minor 7 flat 5 here. Bass note, 3 flat 5 7. I'm not even playing any extensions or anything. I'm just playing a normal flat 5. I'm adding 1 flat 9 in here, and then I go back to my melody. Harmonized, no melody. Right? I'm harmonizing on the downbeats, or the anticipations, I should say. Melody, comp. And that's a skill set. That's a skill set right there, is learning that system to play the melody and then comp. That's what you would work on. I forget who said it. I wish I could remember. Nemu said it. Hopefully I'm saying your name right. Comp for myself while playing the melody. So you'd play the melody and then comp, however it is. And again, you're comping voicings. This is what the playbooks are all about, honestly, because comping for yourself requires a path as well. Like maybe you don't have the ability to play these large spread voicings when you do comp for yourself. Maybe you don't know how to do that. So when you try and comp for yourself, it sounds like this. Like if you are just playing root position chords and voice leading inversions, there's two components that need to be worked on there, right? You need to work on your ability to actually comp in the moment, but you also need to work on your ability to increase your voicing capabilities, because just doing this, that's a beginner strategy. So you would want to increase your two-hand voicings like we were talking about with Paul. So we want to get to something like this. So we can add in some extensions, get some two-hand voicings. At the root of my two-hand voicings, always, guys, hopefully I drill this enough into your heads, but I'm always using my two-hand voicing structure. 1, 7, 3, going to 1. That's it. And again, believe it or not, like these are pro jazz voicings. It doesn't get more magical than this. I mean, this is it. This is it right here. And again, at the root of these, and you'll see in all transcriptions and everyone who plays voicings, this is happening all the time. When you pull back the curtain, it's actually not magic. You're like, wow, it seems like magic, but it's not. Sure, I'm adding stylistic textures and musicality, right? This little popping it, landing, these are all musicality things, but you can just play just like that. Howard says, I try to play every tune as a solo piano ballad, as medium swing comping, plus melodies, ragtime strat, as an impression for bottle style. They all suck. I'm sorry, Howard. It's good that you realize it, though, but, the question and this is a great example. So the question I want you all to ask yourself, I think I'm going to wrap up here. I don't see really many people throwing in any other things, but I think you guys get the picture. But the concept, this is a great way to end on, is why? Why do they suck, right? Don't let yourself off the hook by saying, oh, I suck, I just can't do it, right? Ask yourself, why do they suck, right? Why is it not happening? And if you can understand what is missing, what's the missing component, why is it the medium swing and comping not happening? It could be a time thing. Like I'm laying down the time as I play If I Were a Bell. Right? It could be a voicing thing. You can't execute your voicings. It could be a melody thing, a technique thing. So there's lots of small nuanced issues that it could be that's not allowing the progress to elevate in your playing. So please think, all of you, I want you to think about why. Like, what is missing? What do I need to work on to get to elevate those small areas? Because it could be a number of different paths. Remember, jazz piano is not just a whole encompassing like orb of just stuff. There's lots of levers. Always think about it like a mixing board. You need voicings to elevate. You need comping to elevate. You need rhythms to elevate. These are your progress meters on every single mixing channel. If anyone's familiar with a mixing board, it just looks like lots of slides, right, for volume essentially. But think about it as all these different things you need in your playing. And it stinks because you have to go one by one and work on those components. You can't work on them all together. It just doesn't happen. It's just like, I can't think of a good analogy, but you can't just expect to go out on the golf course and know how to hit every single club. Like every single club, every single skill is different, from chipping to putting to driving. I love golf. It's the same thing in everything in life, right? You got to isolate individual components and work on them. So like you'd work on your voicings, your two-hand voicings. Then you got that a little bit better. Cool. Why don't you move to something else? This is what the playbooks are all about that I'm releasing on Black Friday, is that you can jump between these different playbooks and start to increase your ability meter for these different things, right? And start to improve them based on your own self-analysis and your assessment, of what you need. Okay. And obviously you can go through the Success Path curriculum and start to go sequentially through all of the stuff. But again, that can be tedious. I understand that. So you can take a break. You can go to the playbooks. You can go to the specialty courses, get back into the 6-stage Success Path curriculum and move through. But this is what we need to do. We need to discipline ourselves to slow down, really isolate and focus on these different meters, bring them into the tune, assess how they are working and functioning in the tune, and then step back, sit again and be like, record yourself. Be like, did that sound good? I mean, it sounded great in my practicing, so why isn't it happening in the tune? And it could be you just need a little bit more work, gain some more comfort with any of the changes, that you didn't work on or anything like that. Okay? Think voice leading from one voicing to the next. I'm always thinking this. Yes, great, Bruce. That's awesome. Howard says musicality, not enough voice leading, not enough variety in rhythms. I never use passing movement, etc. Yeah, exactly. You guys are more aware than you even think. Trust me. Like, you guys are all very, very smart. And you're working on jazz. Like, you're not, a lot of you probably aren't pure beginners that know nothing, right? So you've been playing and you're working at it. So you know more than you think, right? So trust yourself. Like Bruce is saying, he thinks about voice leading a lot. And you want this to become a habitual thing. Like, you don't want to have to think about voice leading. You want it to be spontaneous, like we worked on, right? So how do we work on our spontaneity of voice leading, Bruce? Just like we talked about in the last live stream, you got to work on this in isolated environment and work on one thing at a time and just work on putting that metronome on, going through certain changes, and until that gets to become a complete natural process, right? Then it just requires more work, just like a baseball player hitting that curveball. You got to keep hitting the curveball until it feels natural. And then you start to switch in some variables, like throw a changeup in there, because that's going to help elevate your ability to spontaneously react to things. If you need to spontaneously react to voice leading, you got to throw some curveballs in there and help your voice leading start to improve in a spontaneous manner. Then finally, you bring it into the tune. Musicality, that's a whole path in itself, right? Adding slides, textures, passing movements. Right? Chromaticism. Thirds. Extensions. Voicings. Like, I know it feels overwhelming, but your only job, if you're building a brick wall, right, is to take the brick and place it on top of the last brick as perfectly as you can. Don't think about the wall you're building. It doesn't matter. It's not going to build itself. The only thing you have control over is taking that brick and putting it on the wall as perfectly as you can. Because when you do that, you build a fantastic wall. But thinking about the wall, that's not going to help you, right? So take the things you need and try to make them as great as possible so that when you do go to play a tune, they're being expressed in a natural, fluid way and they become a part of your playing. It takes a lot of work to get to that point, but just focus on one thing at a time, right? Really challenge yourself to stop just playing through tunes or just playing stuff you know. Really take those things, those character building moments and challenges, and work on them, right? Because they're easily solvable. Just work on them and they will get better in your playing, okay? So, thank you guys so much for watching. The tune thing is difficult for me because of my philosophies. A lot of other educators love posting about lines and voicings you can use in tunes. And that's all fun and good. I like looking at transcriptions of people and how they play tunes, like their language, like Wynton Kelly versus Herbie or something like that. That's really cool. But I don't really believe it helps to, as I always say, teach you how to fish. It's more like giving you the fish. And internally, my integrity for helping students, it's hard for me to do that sometimes. So I appreciate you all, your willingness to show up and listen to this language that I speak, and it's not shiny. These aren't shiny objects. I could have showed you I could have transcribed my solo over this, right? And sat here and played it through and talked about that stuff, but I'd rather teach you concepts that are actually going to serve you for the rest of your life. Teach you things that are going to educate you on the principles. And of course, I'll sprinkle that stuff in too, because, otherwise you need some fun in there, right? But these are the things that are really going to help you, right? And when you do get to certain points, like let's say you're working on your voicings a lot and they've come a long way. Like for me now, you don't even have to be at my level, but when you're at certain levels, then you can look at transcriptions. You can look at what people are doing and really start to understand and incorporate that stuff into your playing. Like if I look at a way that Herbie has voiced something, I'm like, oh man, that's amazing. Like I'm gonna take that and use it now, but like I have a full background of so many voicings, so many systems already. So for me to look at a voicing and understand it and get what he's doing is very easy, right? If someone without all the understanding of voicings and systems that haven't gone through everything that I have try and do that, yeah, they'll be able to play it. Obviously, there's just notes. You can play them on the piano, but it's not going to do much for your long-term goal. And essentially, hopefully you guys realize that it doesn't really help you progress that much. Like your return of time, your return on investment of your time to do that is minimal with that style of jazz education, which is unfortunate. And that's why, again, I say this all the time. I studied for 3 years at New England Conservatory. It was $75 a lesson. I studied every single week. I took lessons 50 weeks out of the year. And I had 2 weeks off for holidays, stuff like that. I studied for 3 years. I only learned 3 tunes. If I Rebel is one of them. I love this tune now because it's like ingrained in my body and my soul. But If I Rebel, Yesterday's, in Beautiful Love, and those 3 tunes I learned after spending over $10,000 of lessons for 3 years. And I could only play what my teacher played. I couldn't improvise. I couldn't play any voicings on my own. I didn't know how to arrange the tune. I couldn't play any other tunes on my own. So it's rough. It's rough. That return on my investment was not worth it ever. And I never did that again. College was great, but everything after that was, everything kind of admits it's hard. You're hard pressed to find really great teachers. I love jazz educators. I love them. But just the jazz style of learning can be very just, mystical, and, you just got to listen, man. You just got to listen and transcribe. That just never worked for me. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. I'm going to wrap up and, be on the lookout for those new playbooks. If you are a member, if you're not, just check your inbox on Black Friday. You'll get an opportunity to actually join Jazz Piano School for our Black Friday offer. Get access to the playbooks, get access to our 6-stage main course curriculum success path, our lab area, and all of our specialty courses as well. If you're a monthly member on here, actually you'll get an offer upgrade opportunity for your account, because we're going to be releasing lifetime elite access. So you get access to everything, and it's going to be pretty awesome. So that's going to be the last live stream for now. Sterling is actually going to do another live stream. He's in New York City right now, going to Manhattan School of Music for his master's, and he will be doing the next live stream. He's got his equipment set up from New York, and we're going to be getting him doing a lot of podcasts, hopefully interviewing some of his teachers, getting some live stuff filmed at gigs. He's doing a lot of gigging in New York, and it's really awesome to have him on the staff. So that being said, I hope you guys have a great Monday, and thank you as always so much for watching, and thank you for your support, and I'll see you guys next time, okay? Thanks so much.